Hello, everybody. Today I'm talking about Gandanta. Gandanta is a very important aspect in Vedic astrology. And if you have planets placed in Gandanta or planets are going to transit via Gandanta, I am going to talk about it. Hello, everybody. I'm Komilla Sutton, and I'm doing a Vedic astrology tutorial on Gandanta. I had done an earlier recording as well on Gandanta, but this is more detailed one. And also because I am all the time talking about Gandanta in my videos, I want you to be aware of what are the rules for Gandanta and what to look for it. So when we study Vedic astrology, so remember these have to be in Vedic astrology positions. You can't superimpose this technique in other areas. So the positions between the water and the fire signs, these are the exact kind of end of water, beginning of fire signs are Gandanta positions. Ganda means a knot and Anta means end. So this is kind of the knot at the end of the sign. And it is also not at the beginning because it's the beginning of the fire sign as well. So these karmic knots are very complicated if you have planets placed there in your natal chart, and especially the moon placed there, it creates an unsettled situation. So let us just look at where these positions are. So the Gandanta is at the end of Pisces, beginning of Aries, end of Cancer, beginning of Leo, end of Scorpio, beginning of Sagittarius. Now, most important is that it is not to end its specific degrees, 29 degrees, 12 minutes to 30 degrees of the water signs. So Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. And then 0 to 48 minutes of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So where fire and water collide, it is a very stormy area. It's hot and cold. It is where the storms of the astrology are there. But it's also where the issues, if you think about water flowing downwards and at the bottom of mug or a cup, all the dirt will settle down. So from Aries to Cancer, when we reach the end of Cancer, there is debris there. And this debris over the lifetimes becomes coagulated and it becomes a tight knot there. So when a planet is placed there, it is stuck in a karmic situation. Same thing from Leo to Scorpio. At the end of Scorpio, we have the tight knot at 29 degrees 12 Scorpio to 30 degrees Scorpio, and then 0 degrees Sagittarius to 48 minutes Sagittarius. And so again, that Scorpio Sagittarius Gandanta is there, and that is one of the most complex Gandantas you can deal with. And finally, end of Pisces, it's the end of the zodiac. It's everything gets accumulated there and is got fixed. And over the years, it has become a big issue. And so 29 degrees 12 Pisces to 30 degrees Pisces, and 0 Aries to 48 minutes of Aries. Now, so only 6 nakshatras have Gandanta in it, and they're all ruled by Mercury and Ketu. Ashlesha, which is at the end of Cancer, the last part of Ashlesha, which is Pisces Pada, and Aries Pada. So even the Padas are fire, water and fire. So in Cancer, Pisces Pada and Aries Pada, Ashlesha and Magha. Of course, if your moon is placed in Ashlesha, end of Ashlesha, that means almost immediately after birth, the dasha changes and you move into Ketu Dasha. But Ashlesha is very mystical, very spiritual, very complex nakshatra. Magha deals with the forefathers, honoring the forefathers, and we are all walking in the path of the forefathers. So if you have that Gandanta, especially Ashlesha, means you must honor knowledge and your gurus properly. And the Magha nakshatra is the Pitris, the forefathers who are your gurus. We honor them. Then Jyeshta and Mula Nakshatra. Jyeshta is end of Scorpio. Again, it's Pisces and Aries pada in these two nakshatras, but it's not the full pada, it's right the edge of the pada. So Pisces pada in Jyeshta. Jyeshta means the elder one. And Jyeshta's devata is Indra, and it is also Jyeshta Devi, who's the elder sister of Lakshmi. And she's very conscious of truth and being truthful in power. So those people who have power and a responsibility with it, then Jyeshta is reminding them that to be honest with their power and exercise it wisely. And then Mula, the deity, there is Niriti, and Niriti is a fierce deity as well. Again, it is about truth and transformation. And this Scorpio Sagittarius area is also where the soul is moving from tamas to sattva. So there is a big break from tamas to sattva, and these are not easy energies because they're both embedded in their own gunas, in their own quality. So moving from there, if you have a planet there in Scorpio area, you've got some fixed issues that need to be purified, and purification through mantra, japa, humbleness, donation, all the usual aspects of remedy is important. And then in Scorpio, there's a lot of storminess with new spiritual energy coming your way. In Sagittarius, there is new spiritual energy coming your way. So it is important that you are honoring that aspect and not cutting away yourself completely. The mula is the root, so you don't want to cut the root totally, because as yet it's just fresh, you're not totally developed spiritually. So as far as the last nakshatra Gandantas are Pisces and Aries, and Pisces nakshatra is Revati and Aries is Ashwini. So these are, Revati is the last nakshatra, Ashwini is the first nakshatra. This is a very complex transit. This is the only Gandanta that is Vargotama. But in order to study Vargotama, you must know the Gandanta degrees, because a planet can be Vargotama and fine, but if it is edging towards the end of Revati or hugging the beginning of Ashwini, then it is going to be in Gandanta. So Revati, Pisces, Ashwini, Aries, and two planets that are very strong, Pisces and Revati. Venus is exalted there, Jupiter is in its own sign, and so therefore if they are in Gandanta, you have to take that into account as well, because if they are 27 degrees to 29-12, they are okay. They are Vargotama strong. But 29-12 to 0, end of Pisces and Revati Nakshatra, that is a complex energy for them. And similarly, in Aries, you get Mars is strong, own sign, Sun is exalted. And if it is 0 to 48 minutes, that means they are in Gandanta and insecure position, even though they are strong. And that is important to take into account. And they are Vargotama, but they are Gandanta as well. And similarly, the weakness, Mercury in Pisces in Revati, that is a debilitation energy for right at the end, and Saturn in Aries. At the beginning of Aries, it is Vargotama, but it is very angry and frustrated, that position. And of course, when you are seeing a planet that has gone from Aries to, back to Pisces, or if it has crossed through Gandanta 2-3 times, and it is in your birth chart, then you have to make allowance for that, because there's some hesitation to move into Aries, and maybe just before birth, there were some Gandanta unsettled energy in for mother or family and things like that. So quite a bit of analysis has to be done even when going through the Gandanta nakshatras. And in each case, if moon is in the Gandanta nakshatra, then means that you start with the Mercury dasha and go immediately into Ketu, or your birth is in Ketu dasha. Either way, this is in a complex energy. But remember, the degrees are very important. So it's hugging the end of the nakshatras or beginning of these 6 nakshatras. Now, what are the planets that you would look at? Moon obviously plays the biggest part. If you have the moon in any of these positions, it is complicated. Main thing is this, that you are ending Mercury dasha, beginning Ketu dasha, at this right at birth. It can be just if you are born in the fire part of Gandanta, you're just starting Ketu dasha at the start of birth. So it gives an unsettled energy. And the main thing with the planet is that despite having that something, you don't have it. This is what you notice, that if moon is in Gandanta, you may always be searching for mother's love, even though you may have it, may have a living mother, but mother is not either busy or unable to, due to circumstances, to give enough to you. Other planets can also be in Gandanta. Sun can be in Gandanta, of course. Then Sun, the Karaka of Sun is father. So each Karaka you can look at what is there if you have a planet placed in Gandanta. And these planets are then in an unhappy state of mind. And the most difficult Gandanta for the moon is the Scorpio Sagittarius Gandanta. It is known as Abhukta Mula. And that means that despite having abhukta means, bhukta means to experience, but abhukta means not to experience. So despite having wealth, or despite having family, there is some conflict, some difficulty. It is always a karmic situation. One has to overcome it and become strong in yourself. But obviously, as you're a child, you don't understand these situations, and you have to work and learn with them. So each of the Gandantas are different qualities. If you see Cancer, Leo, Gandanta, at that Gandanta point, Mars will be debilitated. And so that is a difficult energy for Mars. And although Jupiter will be exalted, it is also Gandanta. So it's not easy. Moon will be own sign at the end of Cancer, and Sun will be own sign at the beginning of Leo. But the Gandanta position, very important to check that. Then if you go into Scorpio, moon is debilitated in Scorpio. At the end of Scorpio, it's so stormy. It's like a hurricane or a tornado happening in that area. So moon emotional storms can be there. Often I've seen that artists and actors who have these Gandanta positions are able to channel their emotions into either music or acting, because they have an outlet for it. But for us also, we have to try to find an outlet. So moon in Scorpio is at the Gandanta position, and it's debilitated as well. And then in Sagittarius, it, from Sagittarius rules the 8th house. So it's an unsettled energy. But Mars, even though it will be in its own sign in Scorpio, if it is Gandanta, it will. You have to factor that in. And same thing with Jupiter. Jupiter being there in Gandanta, it is unsettled energy for Karaka marriage regarding children. It's not that you won't have the children, it's not that you won't have the success, but there is some underlying psychological factor which we as Vedic astrologers think of it as past life issues that come, and they create these knots in our psyche that we need to unravel. And finally, the Pisces, Mercury is debilitated at the end of Pisces. Venus can be exalted. Actually, Venus is exalted at 27 degrees of Pisces. And it is the only planet that is exalted near a Gandanta point. But 27 degrees is not 2912. So if you have an exalted Venus and it is in the Gandanta zone, that's very complicated as well. And then you can see the Aries element. It's a fiery energy for Venus, not very comfortable. So all these Gandanta zones you can have in your natal chart. Now, if you have it in the natal chart, it is important to do some remedy for it. It's important to work with it. Usually the planet that is placed there, that planet, you will not find happiness from that area in a material way. So you have to find it in your own way and to develop yourself and strengthen yourself and learn to cope with that aspect. But spiritually, these Gandanta positions can be very powerful, and they give extra knowledge and ability of understanding the secrets of life and the hidden areas of life. Now, also what I've noticed is that planets Gandanta by transit, we experience them all the time. And in my videos, I'm talking about planet going through Gandanta, and I want you to be able to listen to this to understand what Gandanta is. These are short-term unsettled energies because they are transit, means transitory. They don't last for long, but when they are long there, then they are important. Obviously, when Jupiter or Saturn goes through Gandanta, this is an important time where, we have to deal with something karmic, Rahu, Ketu, because they are slow moving planets. But Moon goes through 3 Gandantas in a month, and all those 3 Gandantas, we are advised not to start anything new because then it is a Nakshatra Gandanta. So Moon is going through the 3 Gandantas, and Moon goes through 3 Gandantas in a month. Sun will go through 3 Gandantas in a year. And those also, usually for the Sun, it's, when the Gandanta is, it's around 15th, 16th of August, 14th, 15th of December, and 13th, 14th of April. So these are the 3 Gandantas for the Sun. And I always inform you when they are Gandantas, always Sun moving sign is also Sankranti. So you can spend time to do some meditation and honor this transition for the Sun. Then the other planets can retrograde over Gandanta. So Mercury will go over 3 Gandantas in a year. But if it retrogrades over the Gandanta, so that is important to see, then it can be as many as 9 times. But I don't think I have watched Mercury retrograde all 3 Gandantas in 1 year. But one set of Gandantas, like it can do, go over Cancer, Leo Gandanta, retrograde back, and then go over it. And same with Venus. But Venus retrogrades once every 2 years. So once every 2 years, it is possible that Venus can retrograde over a Gandanta. But otherwise, in a year, Venus will travel Gandanta 3 times. And normally what you see is that Sun, Mercury, and Venus will be crossing Gandanta around the same time. So because Mercury and Venus are always traveling close to the sun, so you'll see like 1, 2, 3 triple Gandanta transit one after the other. So keeping that in mind is important. And then Mars will go through 3 Gandantas in 2 years. So it takes 2 years to go around the zodiac. But again, with Mars, you need to watch out when it retrogrades once every 2 years, whether that retrograde is over a Gandanta point. So watching the Gandantas are important. Now, the Rahu Ketu, of course, again, in 18 years, Rahu will go over Gandanta 3 times and Ketu will go over Gandanta 3 times. Each time, it is a significant event. There are some world issues taking place, but if an eclipse is taking place at Gandanta, then it becomes extra significant. Jupiter transit is 12 years, and in that 12 years, Jupiter will transit over the Gandanta 3 times. But if it does retrograde over that point, then you could get 1 or 2 or 3 Gandantas. Always, it is also important to see whether a planet is stationing on a Gandanta point. So if a planet is stationing over a Gandanta point, then it is very unsettled energy for the planet and for the world, because everybody is experiencing it together. And now Saturn going over Gandanta point is the rarest, because Saturn travels throughout the zodiac in 29 years, and therefore 3 times during that 29 years, Saturn will be transiting through Gandanta. But again, if Saturn stations to turn retrograde at Gandanta, then that is a very complex time. And you can look back at the times when Saturn stationed at a Gandanta point. And so Saturn transiting over Gandanta is a big thing. And then if Saturn is going to retrograde and go 3 times over Gandanta, then that is also very important. In 2017, Saturn went over Gandanta 3 times. And if you look back, that was quite an unsettled time. So as far as the slower moving Gandantas, planets are concerned and their transit over Gandanta, Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, Jupiter, these are, way more heavier Gandantas to feel, because they're more rarer, and therefore they are specifically indicating an important transit. And of course, monthly, the moon's Gandanta transit has to be taken into account, especially when planning any new project, because moon is most important in electing time. And for us also, if we are aware that moon is going through Gandanta, it's a 1 day of emotional unsettling energy. So if we balance ourselves, that helps us. So watching the transits mean that globally all of us are affected when a Gandanta is happening. The only difference is how are we reacting to it. And the reaction depends a lot on what dasha you're in, what your personal chart is saying, what your personal development is, what are your personal sadhana, your practice, how well you learn to cope with the planetary energy. But everybody experiences these Gandantas by transit simultaneously. And that is, worth watching and taking care. Now, what I have found with the Gandanta transits is that a planet going towards Gandanta is more difficult than once it's crossed the Gandanta. So always watch a couple of days before Gandanta, then after Gandanta, to see what is happening. And finally, we have to be conscious about what remedy to do with Gandanta. Sage Parashar has given many remedies for Gandanta. And mostly there's puja and purification pujas that are done. But on a personal level, you may know that you have something in Gandanta. You can do yourself, learn patience to develop yourself spiritually, so that you can deal with the sorrows and the difficulties the Gandanta brings. And then that will help you to deal with the situation. So do let me know in the down in the messages, if you have Gandanta, how do you feel? How have you coped with it? Because that is also good to share, and I will also understand better how you experience Gandanta. It is something very important. Always keep it in mind. So thank you very much. Check out my website, komilla.com. All the best.